Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Gio and Joey Show. We have a special guest today talking about special things. Joey, introduce our topic tonight and our guest.
Our guest tonight is actually a coworker of mine. I met him at the place where I work on Sundays, Country Life Natural Foods in Southwest Michigan. It's Isaac Lewin, and we're going to be talking about, I'm sure, a range of things. But first of all, Isaac, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm really happy to be here with you guys.
Awesome,
Fantastic.
Joey. Lead us off.
All right. I guess first of all, give our audience a little bit of the background, how you came to country life, and kind of what country life's all about. Because it's a business, but in some ways, it's more than a business too. So, kind of maybe give our audience that rundown.
Yeah, sure. So, how I came to country life is actually a pretty unique story. I myself have a theology background, but I've been doing marketing and sales for a while because I also worked at a huge marketing agency called web.com. So I got
Hmm.
pretty exposed to advanced marketing and technology and stuff. So over the years, I've built that up. And so I was living in Georgia, working for another Adventist. Actually, he owned this medical spa, and also pain management treatment center where he really did do amazing treatments for people. So I was helping to bring people to his business. Then, certain things just weren't working out like I was hoping. And at the time, Mitchell was reaching out because he had goals and he wanted to grow Country Life and to grow the business. And so, knowing my background, um, Jared Thurman, I'm not sure if you heard of his name, Jared Thurman, but Jared Thurman, it was connect. He was at the time the president, or I'm thinking he's still the president of Oak Haven, but Oak Haven has transformed because this whole process has been pretty amazing over the past year. Joey, you can probably attest to that. But anyway, so Jared reached out, told Mitchell about me, my background. We had a Zoom call, and at the time, it didn't make sense because I wanted to stay in Georgia and work down there because it was warm. I didn't want to move to
Yeah.
Michigan. Michigan is like,
Ain't
who
nobody got
wants
time
to
for Michigan.
exactly? But a few months later, about by December time, January, I reached out and I was like, you know what, it'd be a new year. I said, you know what, make an offer and I'll see what your offer is, and if it's good, I'll take it. Because at this
Hmm.
point, I was like, I'm pretty not say fed up where I was, but I was ready to do something else.
Hmm.
And lo and behold, yeah, he made a nice offer, and so I was like, okay, yeah, I can work with that. And I moved up to Michigan, and it's been an amazing adventure. When I first got there, my heart was really heavy because it was like it's a 1,200-acre property. So back in like the 1960s, there was a whole bunch of people that lived there and worked there and they had different industries. I think Country Life was just one of them, and it's the one that lasted longest. So it's the food business. They started
Hmm.
out kind of selling granola and doing other health restaurants, and they planted restaurants really all across the world. There's even some stuff overseas that still exists today, that still has a Country Life name. But now, here in Southwest Michigan, what Joey helps us with is to help ship orders all over America, and we're actually about to branch into Canada too. We're working on that,
Hmm.
and so people just go to our website, they find the products they want, whether it's all organic or everything we have is non-GMO, so it's all safe to eat. But they find the products they want, they make their order, and then we just get it sent to their homes.
So, you know, just because I have a third eyeball doesn't mean GMO is bad for you. Sarcasm. No, but I'm glad. I'm glad everything is non-GMO because, depending on how people feel about that, it's just best to eat food as naturally as possible as can be. So, what would you say for the audience that doesn't know much about country life? What is the mission statement or the mission statement or vision statement of country life? Because when you are worried about health, a lot of times, well, most of the time, it goes beyond just the bottom dollar. That they have a mission. So what is it?
Yeah, so our mission statement really is making healthy eating as simple as possible. So
Okay.
that's our goal, is to just making access to healthy foods something that anyone can do in a few clicks. Like you can
Hmm.
just either, or if you don't even have the internet, you could still phone call. You can call
Hmm.
us. We mail people catalogs all the time. We actually have a huge customer base that are Anabaptists, so
Hmm.
Amish,
Yeah,
Mennonite,
yeah.
that
Hmm.
they use horse and buggy. And so we'll deliver the products directly to their home. And so they love that. But the hardest part about growing that customer base is contacting them because I'm running Facebook ads and Google ads that they're never
Yeah,
gonna see. So
yeah,
it's just
yeah,
like,
yeah. Hey,
yeah.
you got to get a fleet of pigeon birds, messenger birds.
I've actually done some cold mailing of catalogs. I should do letters more than just catalogs and see if they respond with a letter and say like, would you like us to mail you the catalog? So we'll see.
Okay, Joey, jump in
So
there.
yeah, so kind of a follow up question on the mission, because so on this podcast we like talking from a Protestant perspective. How do we engage with politics, culture, business, all these different things? So Country Life and Pullman obviously has a Christian undercurrent to it, right? It's a Christian company. How would you say? So for somebody listening, that maybe they just think of healthy eating, and you're talking organic, and they think that we're just, oh, this is a bunch of left wing Greenpeace tree hugging hip, right? But
Mercy.
instead, like, so how does faith play into the mission of Country Life?
Well, I'm happy that you asked that because that is an important factor. Like, why is the business as strict as it is to have only non-GMO products? Because it actually wasn't like that from the start. That was actually a change they made. I forgot what year, if it was like 2021 or it was fairly recent. So they cut out
Hmm.
a lot of the Worthington and a lot of the, what do you call the other ones in the can. A lot of
Loma
Adventists love those. Yeah, Loma
Hmm.
Linda. They
Yeah,
love
yeah.
because it just at the price it was, it just didn't even make sense to get the non-GMO ones. And so anyway, we decided to make that hard pivot, and because as Adventists, and not just Adventists, but as people who are Christians and who are Bible believers, the Bible says that we should take care of our bodies. God actually has so many. If you want to look in the Old Testament and see all those rules, there's like,
Hmm.
you got to say, why was God so particular about them washing their hands and them defecating X amount of feet outside and them, not doing so?
Burying it.
So yeah, so there's, God has certain things that he's put into place, and we're just here to make it easy for people to be able to do that. So not only do we have the food, but we also have a lot of education. So we have like blog content and articles, and
Hmm.
actually each week we come out with a new recipe. And so a lot of people like our this is one statistic that marketers would understand and be really impressed with. So our emails on average for our newsletter have like a 50% open rate.
Oh, that is, yeah,
We're-
that is huge. Because I had a church newsletter that was maybe 15 to 20% open rate.
yeah, this is like I don't know how many. I mean, our full list is like 200,000 plus now, but we don't
Hmm.
send 200,000 out a week. We probably send like 40,000 or so. But
Yeah.
it's still 50% because people are expecting a new recipe, so they're like looking
Hmm.
forward to learning a new dish. So it's a unique situation with a unique customer base. But so we have people at all stages, whether they're really, they've been plant based for a long time, or they're
Hmm.
curious about plant based, so they just want to get. Some people just want organic oats. And
Yeah.
for us, what's actually interesting is we do get a lot of customers through like Amazon, but what we find is that they find us on Amazon and then they'll hopefully find us our store directly because we try to
Organically, yeah.
well, we try to actually I don't know if I should give the secret out, but we try to let every customer know that first off who we are. So we have a card that introduces the business,
Hmm.
and then in every order we also have a little card that has a little piece of the health message. So
Yeah, yeah.
each month it changes, and we give one aspect of the health message. And then on top of that, we have like a, this is what you paid on Amazon, this is what you paid on our website. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we try to
Exactly. Yeah,
help
because
people.
you know, shipping that stuff directly to you fast on Amazon, you ain't getting that for free. You know what I mean? They be marking up their prices. So, look, for people who may not understand the Adventist lingo of the health message, break that down for people who are not perhaps of our denomination, for them to understand the importance of that in our circles and what it means for us as a people.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for the opportunity. So
Hmm.
there are different ways that people break this down. There's different acronyms that people have made up. New
Hmm.
Start is one that's very common or popular, which stands for, like, I think it's nutrition, and then
Hmm.
exercise, water, sunlight. There's a whole lot of
Hmm.
different things, but at the core of it, it's making the healthiest option, or taking making the healthiest choice when it's available. Like, that's,
Hmm.
for me, I look at myself like being a health reformer. I've
Hmm.
been quite a pharisaical vegan, slap
Hmm.
the cheese out people's mouth type, like, you know like
Mercy.
yeah, I've been pretty hardcore, and I've lost a lot of friends because of that, judging people for
Hmm.
drinking Coke and judging people
Hmm.
for doing that. And
Yeah.
not everyone is where I was, and it wasn't my place
Hmm.
to judge them and cast that on them and make them feel that way. But at the opposite end, I you don't want to just go wild and just start doing whatever you want. So I say, you want to make the healthiest choice that's available. Like, if there's salad and there's a whole bunch of stuff, like, get the salad. Don't I see so many
Yeah.
times, not to pick on anybody, but so many times,
Joey.
we know these things. We heard them from our grandparents. We heard them from our parents, and yeah, here we are. Just like, we have the choice, we have the money. We could buy a salad, but we just don't.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, yeah. So the health message for Adventists is really, we even call it the right arm of the gospel,
Hmm.
and the reason is because we understand that your mind is really the most valuable thing that we have. I mean, it's great to have arms and great to have legs and great to have all those things, but without a mind that works well to move it all, it really is not worth much. And so the mind is an extension, it's like extension, but what we put into our bodies makes an impact on how our minds work and how our minds function, even to the things that we think about. And a lot of people
Hmm.
don't really realize that or think about that. They don't think that, oh, what I eat will affect how I think, but
Hmm.
it actually can, and it actually does. We know that eating certain things will lead. I mean, there's there's all sorts of things that we could eat to have certain effects on our bodies. We just know that that's a fact. So why is it that we would think, oh, by eating a certain diet, that it would make me have certain, even behavioral issues? Like, there's studies that have been done on.
So
There's a
yeah, somebody put it up. Sis R. McKenzie put up New Start up for us. So it's
yeah, she
nutrition,
did.
exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, and trust in God. Thank you for that.
And trust in God being the number one key. There's another one
Hmm.
called God's Plan, which is really, really nice, and that one actually starts out with, I forgot what it stands for, but it's something about God's,
Yeah. You know,
and so it's go ahead.
let me jump in here real quick. I'm 100% plant based, and you mentioned that you were a hardcore zealous vegan, and that's why I don't identify as vegan. Some of you vegans are nuts, with the overzealousness, and so that's why I identify as 100% plant based, because it's basically the same thing. But I don't know about you, but I don't have issues if somebody buys me leather shoes, I'm gonna wear them. You know what I mean, or a leather belt, where
Right.
veganism kind of split and has that hardcore nurture.
No
But
honey.
you're right. You're right. You're not going to bring people into a healthier eating style if you're beating them over the head with it. And so in my churches, we promote, some healthy eating. Obviously, my wife and I, we model it, but we never beat people over the head of it. But it does make a difference. And that's why I love, our message for those who may not know the health reform in the Adventist church. Just look up the title, Loma Linda Blue Zones. We're one of
Mm,
the longest lived people in the world and the only culture of longevity that is not in decline, right? The other cultures are starting to eat the American way and they're starting to get the American diseases. So I appreciate that. How long have you been? Uh,
I was just
Go
real
ahead,
quick.
Joey.
Two biblical references that were coming to mind as you both were talking, but Genesis 3 and Daniel chapter 1, the root of the test comes down to appetite. And
Yeah.
obviously, three of us, we all believe in a health message, but I like my clean meats, and maybe that's something that may convict me of eventually. I'm fully open to that. But I could, I think moderation too is an
Yeah.
important principle. But I acknowledge that the closer we get to a plant based diet, I think is better, right? So,
Hmm.
you know, there's things we can cut out along the way too, right? Like if you're, like, I have a friend growing up who was vegan, and he'd always make a point to talk about how Oreos are vegan, so I can eat as many Oreos as I want. Like,
yeah,
well,
Yeah.
that's the but but
yeah,
I just think I'm glad that you guys emphasize the idea of not beating people over the head, but like
Yeah.
a gradation of, right, there's the most healthy, there's the least healthy. If we're moving in the direction towards the most healthy, I think that's the best thing.
Hmm.
well, I think that's what God's whole plan is. I mean, that's as the I think there's an example of like the seed first the ear, and then the
Hmm.
stalk, then the grain in the ear, and so like there's a process of development, and what happens a lot of times is, um, it's easy to see when we have gotten to a place and we have, God has brought us to a place and we want others to be where we are, and instead of thinking, there is a positive way to encourage people, but sometimes, as you mentioned, Gio, we're a little zealous or a little we I don't know, self gets in the way a little bit, and yeah, things just go a little sour. But you're asking
Isaac,
about
real quick,
me.
real quick. Let
Yeah.
me. There's a question for you, because you mentioned it, and there it is on the screen.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So it's countrylifefoods.com.
And repeat that
Countrylifefoods.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
countrylifefoods.com. And yeah, you can
Joey, why
go
don't you
check out
put
the
it in the
website.
comments?
So I'm not on my computer today.
Oh,
I
okay.
forgot
No,
my
go
computer.
ahead. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, but so you mentioned about the biblical perspective that you had, Joey, and one of the things that have always encouraged me to keep doing this is because, I mean, meat does have a savory flavor. Like no one
Yes.
can deny that
No.
meat is not delicious, right?
Well, I could push back on that a little, but go ahead. I'll let you finish in a joking way, but I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
But so it's like, yeah, we have the choice and we have the option, but everything that we do on earth is actually a demonstration of our faith. Like
Mm-hmm.
literally everything
Yes.
that we do, every decision that
Mm-hmm.
we make. And so it's like, okay, if I believe that we're going to live in a place where we're not going to eat meat because nothing in
Mm-hmm.
heaven will die,
Yeah.
I should get practice living in a place where nothing will die. So by the
Mm-hmm.
time when I get there, it's not going to be like a big transition. It's just going to
Mm-hmm.
be, oh, great, let's eat what you were eating, because
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
were already eating the same way. This is how they
Mm-hmm.
eat in heaven. In heaven, they
Yes.
don't eat animals. I'm sorry to break people's hearts.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
gonna chase Jesus's chickens down in heaven. I don't know if you're gonna make it. So just
Start now.
So
I tell people all the time, hold on real quick. I tell people all the time when I preach is that you don't have to wait to heaven to start experiencing heaven. You can start
mm,
experiencing heaven now.
mm,
And so why
mm.
not start now? Accept Jesus in your life, let him transform you, and you can start experiencing heaven now. Go ahead, Joey.
growing up, I had a Sabbath school, and for those who aren't from Adventism, there's a youth group in Adventism called Pathfinders,
Hmm.
Pathfinder leader, used to joke, and there's no theological basis to it. It's just kind of a funny joke that on the tree of life in heaven, right? That's going to have a different fruit. Like the Bible talks about having they'll have a different fruit every month of the year. He used to
Mhm.
joke, well, there's going to be one of those flavors that's a Mountain Dew fruit, and there's going to be another one that's ribeye fruit. And I'm like, well, I don't know about that, but
Yeah.
I
Hey,
don't
look, I know
know.
you're joking. I know you're joking, Joey. But let me share an experience. When my wife and I got married, we went to Maui for our honeymoon. And they gave us a mango that was so delicious. Had they not
Mhm.
told us it was a mango, I would have thought it was some fruit I've never had in my life. I mean, this was the best mango ever. So, if that, to this day, never another mango like that. So, can you imagine in heaven what the fruit is really going to taste like?
Oh
Mercy,
man.
mind blown.
Yeah, and I love that you went to mangoes because I actually was just in Peru a few weeks ago,
Okay,
and
yeah,
when
I'm
you talk about
Peruvian.
oh, are you?
Yeah,
Awesome,
half
awesome.
Peruvian. Where'd you go in Peru?
I was in Pucallpa.
Oh yes, that's. I took my wife on a mission trip to Pucallpa. So did
That's
you
where
go
I
to
was
the
doing.
local? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was really
Mm,
beautiful. An amazing town, amazing people, amazing
mm.
food, a lot of lime, and a lot
Yes.
of. I
Yes.
do. I had no idea there's that many ways to cook plantains. I mean,
Hmm.
there's just there's just a million ways to make plantains. But yeah, and so the what we were talking about the food and the time,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
food that I had down there was really good.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
Man, my
I was
brain still.
addressing like the fruit in heaven. Know what I mean?
The
How
fruit,
much?
that's right, the
Yeah.
mangoes. That's what I was
Hmm.
talking about. The mangoes
Yeah.
that I had down there reminded me, like you said, I was born in Jamaica,
Hmm.
and I've actually tried some mangoes in the Philippines, and I've tried mangoes in Brazil. I'll say this:
Hmm.
mangoes are good all over the world. There is not a country that has better
Yeah.
mangoes than whatever. I think all the mangoes in the world are just God showing off because mangoes are the best fruit.
Hey, here's something I've been doing lately with mango. You know, it's not as good as fresh fruit, but if you get frozen mango, right, about 100 in chunks, right, about 200 grams, you put them in the microwave for like 20 seconds, so to take away that real frozen, and then put some applesauce, some frozen blueberries, and mix it up. Ah, it's a great healthy dessert.
That sounds
So
good.
yeah, try it. I put Granny Smith applesauce, some mangoes, some blueberries, some raspberries, some peach, and it's a health. I had it tonight. So let me go back to this notion of the health message. Uh, During the pandemic, we saw that a lot of people died because of comorbidities, right? So it's not necessarily the COVID, but they had other issues. How does, in practical manner, eating this way help people? Like, name some of the practical ways it helps people.
Well, and research has shown this because don't
Mm-hmm.
take my word for this. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you hear something that sounds out of whack, write it down and look it up later. But just by having more fiber in your diet,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
you will go to the bathroom more regularly. And
Mm-hmm.
this isn't even this when I first heard the statistics just about how many Americans are not going to the bathroom on a regular basis, I was
Mm-hmm.
shocked
Oh
just
yeah.
because it's just never been a thing that I had an issue with because my mom has just always fed me good, I
Yeah.
guess, and I've never, and so, but to hear like, no, there are people that are going like, a few times a week. It's like
No,
a
no, no. Let
week.
me tell you. Let me tell you. No, no. Let me tell you a story. My wife. We used to live in the valley in Texas, and she used to work at a government clinic called Su Clinica. And she used to ask people several times, are you regular? And they would say yes. But after a while, my wife started getting suspicious, so she would ask, "What do you mean by regular?"
Right.
I go once a week, every Friday, like clockwork.
What do you mean?
I know. Yes, exactly. And she would have to educate him like, no, 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 no. We need to, you need to be going at least once a day, at least once a day.
So my naturopathic doctor,
Hmm.
that well, she's a friend of our family. She said how many times you eat a day is how many times you should be going a day. If your body is working well, you should.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm not gonna, I'm like I said, this is just one subject that I didn't realize was that big of a thing. But if you just add more fiber to
Yes.
your diet and you go more regularly, there's so many diseases
Benefits.
that
Yeah.
go away with that. And that's just one area. That's not even just about adding more water and then adding
Mm.
exercise and then adding adequate rest. And then of course, really the idea is not just becoming a healthy person, but a healthy Christian, because at the
Mm-hmm.
end of it, there's also the trust in God aspect.
Yeah.
And really, if you consider this whole thing, is it just for us? If you really look about what God is doing, He's really
Mm-hmm.
smart. The most attractive thing to Christianity is happy Christians. Is that
Mm-hmm.
happy, perfect? That people will say Christian families have. There's just this aura around Christian families, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you also have that attract, not just the happiness and the love, but you also have the fact that, hey, these guys are living longer, and these
Mm-hmm.
guys are not, they're a little more docile. They're not
Mm-hmm.
willing to just jump in violence and attack each other. They're
Yeah.
actually willing to discuss things and work things through. So it's supposed to be, I think, God, just like it was in the Old Testament, where Israel was kind of set up in a place to be looked at by all the kingdoms as an example
Mm-hmm.
of what to do. I think God still wants that same thing to happen today, and not just for Adventists, but for all Christians,
Yeah.
to be that example that other people would say, "Hey, I want my life to be like that too."
You brought up the fiber, and that is what people are missing the most. I'm a nutrition coach as well, NASM certified nutrition coach. The average American gets about 10 grams of fiber, where the
Mm,
recommendation for a woman is 25, and for a man it's 35 grams of fiber per day. However, like I mentioned earlier, I'm 100% plant based. I average between 79 to 100 grams of fiber per day. So, and there are studies that show that for every, I think it's 10 grams of fiber, you increase your lifespan longer. And
wow.
that's above the 35, right? So the average American's not even getting, they average around 10, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I it has to do with marketing. And I have to say this, I'll admit it, all the way through, because I work in that field of marketing and advertising and that stuff. And when there's money to be made, then
Mm-hmm.
they'll sell it. They'll
Yeah.
sell, whatever it is. And so unfortunately, there's a lot of money to be made in selling some of these products that are not really natural. Like, and not to attack anyone's feelings, but
Mm-hmm.
just looking at the dairy industry. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what other animal is going out there drinking another animal's milk? And then
Yeah,
what
yeah.
other animal drinks milk as an adult? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
something that's so against nature in a sense
Mm-hmm.
that, but I understand it. Like, we use milk in so many recipes, and
Products,
milk is,
yeah.
I'm not saying milk is horrible. That's not what I'm
Yeah,
saying by
yeah,
any
yeah,
means. I'm just saying that there's a lot of money to be made if they get people buying a lot of milk and getting people in the habit of doing things. But if you look at the effect that it has on the body, then that's a whole another story. So,
yeah.
you know,
Let me
go
give
ahead.
you a testimony on the milk thing. I'm 100% plant based, but I'm not overzealous. We're 100% plant based at home, but if I'm on at a church social and there's somebody offers me a cupcake, being the pastor, and they tell me it has a little bit of milk on it, I'll eat it, right? Because it's not a normal thing that I do. However,
Mhm.
I was shocked when I gave up, when I was beginning to be 100% plant based, because I've been close to that for 2 decades, a little over 2 decades. I didn't realize that Doritos and Cheetos had actual milk. I thought it was just cheese flavor, synthetic. So the moment I gave that up, my allergies improved. The moment I went 100%, like even not having trace stuff, like in Morningstar, they used to have milk in Morningstar
Mhm.
products. Once I gave that up, man, my allergies improved so much. So a lot of times, the majority of people are lactose intolerant. They don't even know it. And if they would
That's
just give
fact.
it up, you could see a lot of immune gains. Because going back to the fiber, our gut is like our immune system, the heart of our immune system. If you got a healthy gut, you have a healthy immune system.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The one that I know that it's a big thing that it's not really talked about is acne.
Oh
There's
yes.
so many people that I know that when they give up dairy, even if it's just ice cream or milk,
Mm-hmm.
so maybe
Mm-hmm.
they might do cheese and do whatever, but they
Yeah.
give up like the heavy ice cream and the heavy
Mm-hmm.
milk, their acne clears up. And that's
Yeah.
because, as you said, it's just an allergy that they don't realize. Like
Mm-hmm.
the body is like, because even when, I mean, what happens when people gain weight is that your body is starting to have a lot of toxins, and so it takes on that extra protective, because that's the whole idea, is the body is going to protect itself at all costs. That's the cool thing about our body, is like you can we man, there's extremes. You can go to so many different extremes, from bodybuilders to people who are anorexic
Mm-hmm.
to, there's just so many extremes, but the body will protect itself. And so that's what just happens, is that depending on what environment what we put into our bodies will create the type of environment that our bodies are in, and then
Mm-hmm.
based on that will produce various results. I mean, it's you reap what you sow. It really is, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to say, because yeah, there are those phenomenons, or like the ones that defy the reality, like people who smoke all the way up until they're 90, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not typical, you
Everybody
know.
wants to make them the standard when it's
Well,
atypical.
and,
Yeah.
and one thing that I'll point out too that kind of bolsters what Adventists have been saying, and like I said, I'm a bit of a Badventist, but definitely I definitely say I don't eat a lot of meat, but the occasional steak or whatever. But one thing that I've been looking into recently in various YouTube channels that I follow is how the meat or the dairy or even the vegetables, to your point about GMO, today are not the meat, vegetables, dairy, and all the things of before, right? They've been
Right.
so, when you take factory farming. So, say 80 years ago, if you got some meat from a farm, you got your vegetables from a local farm, you got even your milk or whatever from local goats or whatever, it was much more natural. There wasn't as many hormones, but
Right.
virtually all of the stuff that you buy in the store today on the meat side is going to be pumped full of all sorts of stuff where it's really not even the same stuff as generations ago. You know what I mean? So like even that, it's like it's degraded, and that's one of the things where in our tradition, right, Mrs. White says that towards the end, and this is something I think about a lot, but towards the end, it's going to get to the place where the meat is just not eatable at all.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of the reason for this principle. And again, there's grace along the way and stuff, but it's just principles of how you can have a more healthy life. I did want to tie something back into the Bible now and get your
Yeah.
thoughts
Go
on
ahead.
this. But in Revelation, as Adventists, we're kind of known, we really focus on the books of Daniel and Revelation. In Revelation, there's the concept, right, in the three angels' message and the third angel's message about coming out of Babylon. And Babylon, obviously, in a religious context, we see that as, when the church and the state mix together, right? And there's this kind of false Christianity that exerts power and stuff. But there's a broader sense, like when you go back to Babel, right? That Babylon is any confused system. So it can be a confused religious system, or it can be a confused, I think in with the LGBTQ madness and like gender craziness, that's kind of a sexual Babylon. And in the health world, there's a lot of fads. There's a lot of overprescription of certain medications, right? That's kind of become a major topic in the news. But how would you say the things we're talking about, the health message, and even the mission of country life, can kind of play into this kind of health Babylon that people seem to be really worried about in a religious way?
Yeah, yeah. And that is quite a question. So I'll say this. I know that we have, like, even in our comments, and I've seen it hasn't been a lot lately, but in the past where we've had various members of different sexualities reach out to us and ask us what our stance is. Like, do we
Hmm.
serve customers that are homosexual? It's like, why would we not? Why would we not? You know, would Jesus serve a customer that's homosexual? It's
Yeah.
like, yes, like that's an absolute yes. So what makes you less deserving than anyone else? But yeah, a lot of that, we try to just stay clear of a lot of the politics and a lot of the things that are going on, and just stand true to our mission, which is, if someone is looking for help, whether it's with their, I mean, even to the point. So we've one of the things that we've been doing is working with churches, or trying to work any church that is willing, that wants to do health evangelism. We'll actually give them a free box of food. So we have a training course that we've made, and if they watch the videos in the training course, it's like 5 videos. We mail them. They tell us the date when they want to do the cooking class, and we'll mail them a free box of food. It feeds up to about 20 people, for them to actually engage with people in their community, that they can
Hey,
do.
I'm a pastor. I may hold you to that.
Oh, absolutely. I'll send you the link right after this. I'll
Okay.
get it to you. Yeah.
So,
And
so I
actually,
just want
there's you can go to the website and sign up. It's in the opportunities section. Go ahead,
Okay,
Joey.
cool. Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to clarify my question. Yeah, so I guess I was just saying the different kinds of Babylon, and then in a sense, right, when there's all these false systems of like health or various fads or even the
Yes.
problems in the community, how do we differentiate from this health Babylon, right? Like this
Well,
kind of this.
yeah, let me jump in there because it's something I deal with in my other show, the Geo and Joe Mindful Muscle podcast. It's a health show. Is that
Mhm.
one thing? Even though Jody is not Adventist and she eats meat, one thing we don't do is follow fad diets. If I want to gain weight, I just eat more plant-based food. If I want to lose weight, I just eat less plant-based food. So I'm not in this yo-yo of fad diet, right? I eat the way that I could sustain my diet for all my life. If I want to lose weight, I eat less of what am I already eating. If I want to eat more, I eat. If I want to gain weight, I eat more of what I'm already eating, because
Right.
you've probably heard the stats, Isaac, of people who go on these crash diets end up then gaining the weight even more after they're done. Because what's the
Mhm.
word diet implicate? That once I'm reach my goal, then I'm gonna stop eating the way it got me to my goal and try to go back to regular, and then you have. So yeah,
Right.
that's how you combat that. But thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, for me, just on that specifically, it's not about a diet, it's about a lifestyle. And so that's the biggest difference, I guess, if you'd say, Joey. What we're doing is that we're not a fad diet. And I mean, it's been since 1960. It's the same, it's the same thing. Nothing's
Yeah.
changed. Same principles. Exactly. If anything's changed, it's got more stringent, so that it's like hard. We're more pushing healthy products, but yeah, it's I feel the same way, like you mentioned. When I go out to eat, it's actually, I feel really blessed by it, because I think I was talking with you, Joey, about how much more affordable it is to eat this way. And
Mm-hmm.
to go back to the thing with the Babylons, it's just, as you mentioned, there a lot of times people get their identity from certain things, and I think that is what happens with, like you said, the LGBT thing, or the various different things, is people just get identity with it. And even with, like, the vegans
Mm-hmm.
can get an identity with that.
Yeah.
And so, again, with this, the identity is not with the food or with the diet per se. It's with Jesus. It's like, I thank Jesus every time I'm eating this food, because it's like, wow, you made this. You
Mm-hmm.
took the time. You had the time to think about all these various ingredients. Like, how would you know that avocado and a fried egg taste great together on a sandwich? Or, like, there's all these amazing food combinations that, like I said, food doesn't, and especially eating the way that I eat, I think food should be delicious. You should eat good tasting, delicious, you know, properly prepared food, whether it's fresh, whether it's raw. That's the other thing, is like some people take certain things to such extremes where it's like they're just eating raw or they're just eating fruits, and it's like
You got to be
I lived with
balanced.
a man named Dr. Roman Pavlok, and he was a PhD in nutrition, and he is actually one of the probably the foremost leading on vitamin B12. And
Hmm.
so B12 deficiency is something that gets huge in vegans and vegetarians because they're not.
Actually, we're starting to find out that even meat eaters, the way the meats are being processed now, are also coming up short on B12.
Interesting. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've supplemented for a while. Actually, I need to go out and buy more because I think I ran out. But I've
Mm-hmm.
supplemented for a while just because I just thought about it from the past, and I live with that man, and I was like, okay, definitely. I've seen some of the well, for especially for women that are pregnant, like it can have some really really negative side effects on that if they don't have the proper nutrition, and that's just any person. But
Yeah.
yeah, so um, yeah, I think that it's about being balanced and about educating yourself. There is if there is one right way, then the Bible is the right way. So
Let me jump in here on 2 points that were made, and just to kind of accentuate the validity of what's been said. One is a theological point, right? Uh, us Seventh day Adventists, we got the Sabbath. We didn't discover the Sabbath ourselves. It was a Seventh day Baptist lady who gave our pioneers a study on the Sabbath, and then we obviously then studied it ourselves and accepted it because it's biblical. However, there are still Seventh day Baptists today, yet there are a very minor denomination, right? And it's because they don't understand the prophetic significance of the Sabbath in the book of Revelation. So, not seeing Jesus and its prophetic role has diminished their influence, right? The same way there is a study of vegans who don't live as long as Adventist vegans.
hmm.
And the question is why? Well, it's twofold. One, like Joey was saying, his friend was like, well, Oreos are vegan. Then let me eat a lot of Oreos, right? Hey, what'd you say, Joey?
Except he was an Adventist vegan,
No,
though.
no, I know, but I'm saying, that whole notion that these, because it's the other point I'm going to make that'll bring it home, right? So these people who aren't as healthy as Adventist vegan, it's because they eat a lot of foods like that. Oreos are vegan, potato chips are vegan, right? And so,
Hmm.
so what makes the difference? Why doesn't Adventism go down that road? It's because of our priorities. Those vegans are doing it for animal safety. We do it because our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And so that
Hmm.
focus, it's not just about eating plant based, it's about eating the best plant based, the whole foods plant based. And so when you have your priorities right, you see the difference. Both of them are eating vegan, yet one draws the benefit from it and the others do not.
Yeah.
So
And
bringing this to, oh, sorry, no, you go with your point.
well, yeah, I was just thinking that the thing it's hit my mainly the biggest impact on me is that the food, what we put in our mouth, is the one thing I think we have the most control of in life. Typically, most things that happen in our life just happen to us. But when it comes to what we eat or what's on our plate, that's usually one choice that we're always in charge of, unless you're incarcerated. But even then, you kind of still have some option. But
Mm-hmm.
to the point that I'm saying is, if we can perfect discipline on that level, if we can get
Mm-hmm.
that part down, I've found in my personal experience that when I have my diet right, it's a lot easier to make other right choices
Yes.
versus when I'm cheating here or cheating there. It's easier to slip up on this and say God will forgive me because
Mm-hmm.
it's that so um but yeah, Joey, you can go ahead. That's all I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm going to give our audience a little bit of a background, but then I want to get both of you guys' thoughts about a practical application of the things we're talking about for our non-Adventist or our non-Christian even, or friends, right? So this podcast, we really started this podcast in 2021 in the aftermath of the COVID pandemic and what we saw as government overreach, right, on the principles of liberty of conscience, right? We weren't necessarily anti-vaccine, right? I'm personally not anti-vaccine, but the idea of the government, right, these oppressive mandates, people losing their jobs and livelihoods for asking questions or maybe not rushing to get a vaccine or whatever, we just thought the government was kind of overstepping these principles of liberty of conscience that as Adventists, and I think as all Christians and just free people, should prioritize. Dr. Vine, who we had on last week, that's one of the things that kind of has been the heart of his ministry the last 4 years. But there's another thing, you and I kind of talked about this on Sabbath, and this is why I want to give our audience some background. So COVID was a once in a generation pandemic for us, although I believe the Bible says that there's going to be a lot more pestilences as we get closer to Jesus coming, and I think there's going to be ones that are a lot worse. But in 1917 was kind of the last major one. It was a major pandemic that swept the world, swept America too, and it was killing actually a higher percentage of people that got infected with it than COVID. But not a single Seventh-day Adventist in a Seventh-day Adventist institution anywhere in America died from the 1917 pandemic. And what was interesting is these institutions, these schools or whatnot, were housing lots of people that had the virus. They were closed quarters. It was perfect for spreading, but they were living by a lot of these principles of health reform that we've been talking about. And there was even people in the secular political world or the other Christian denominations who were like, what's going on there? And then further, the Battle Creek Sanitarium, right, was one of our first health institutions, and presidents and members of royal families and actors and politicians, like all sorts of people from the world, were coming to Battle Creek, Michigan to get treatment. But in COVID-19, there was no particular focus of the world on the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We were not, as far as I'm aware, there was no studies of Seventh-day Adventists being less likely to die of COVID-19. And then when you look at our health system, there's not really anything that differentiates an Adventist hospital from a non-Adventist hospital except the name. So all that background, do you think that there's a lesson from the things we're talking about, the things that you're passionate about at Country Life, right, that could maybe give a better witness to the world should something like this happen again?
Yeah. It is interesting, like you said. We had a great opportunity to really stand out and differentiate ourselves, and it takes the whole movement, the whole group to do it together. But leadership made their decisions, and what can we do as members except watch the leaders make their decisions? So, but yeah, for each of us, what I learned and what I saw was that we have to take health into our own hands. Like, we are, God made us all intelligent beings, and yes, it's great to have doctors. I don't not saying anything negative about the medical field or medical practice at all, because if my arm was broken, actually Mitchell broke some fingers today, and we were very glad he was able to make it to the hospital. Not today, excuse me, but last week. But he was able to make it to the hospital, get stitches, get wires even in his fingers, and surgery and all that stuff. So it's like, it's great to have that, but like we don't have to have certain, diabetes is not something that happens to everybody. Right. And not all these other lifestyle diseases. And even if we're in a situation, there's so many testimonies we've seen of people transforming their own health by diet and exercise and just doing certain things. So I think that, yeah, as you mentioned, COVID showed that having if there is another pandemic that is to come, and something that comes in this like fashion, being in a healthier state going through that is much better. You're going to be much better off than if you already have other illnesses and other um, health issues. And so if you can find a good source, because that's probably one of the most challenging things that people have, I think, depending. I know for my family living in Tennessee, they live an hour away from anything, and so my mom was
Mhm.
very yeah, no, seriously,
No,
she
no,
was
no.
super
Yeah.
she was super thankful to that I was working at Country Life, and to learn about the business, and now she can get stuff ordered directly to her home. Plus, we take EBT cards. I don't know if I mentioned that. I should
Okay.
have mentioned that
No, no,
much
no.
sooner.
Hmm.
We actually do take EBT. So even if people are not able to, if they're not financially whatever, they have assistance in whatever form. Because even my grandma, like my grandparents, they get some assistance money, and so you can use that as well to take care. So like this is a place where you can actually get healthy foods brought right to you, and if you don't know how to make it, we'll teach you. We have ingredients, we have all these different
Hmm.
stuff. So just to try to be that full service, as helpful as we can be without actually being there with people.
Yeah, to piggyback off of what you're saying, as we move forward, one of my desires and one of my prayers, because I've seen it at least in my social circle, right? So I don't know if it extends nationwide, is that a lot of people realize that they have to be in shape because come the next pestilence, because I like how Joey pointed out on last week's show that it's not, the Bible doesn't say one pestilence, it says pestilences. No, like it's going to be plural. And so one thing I've seen among my social circle is people now taking it more serious, getting in shape, exercising, cleaning up their diet as best as they can, knowing that it was the people with the comorbidities that suffered the most. And so, I think God honors the effort more than the actual change. Meaning
Mm,
like if you're 50 pounds overweight, he's not gonna bless you because you haven't lost the 50 pounds, right? If you're going in the right direction, honoring him, then I know he will bless. And so wherever you are, I had a little extra baggage at the age of 47, and I'm at the best shape of my life at 52, or I'll be 52 in March. 12% body fat. I exercise, and it's because we can drift into bad habits, but you have to be intentional to do good habits.
that's the truth. Yeah, because you mentioned even today, I told Joey I was coming back from the
Mm.
gym. I actually took 4 weeks off. I went a whole cycle paying for the gym and not going one time because I was in Peru for a little bit and da da.
Yeah,
I was like, no, no, I'm gonna go get what I'm paying for. I gotta go.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
got to.
Have you seen that funny meme that says, "I've joined the gym for 6 months and I haven't seen any change. Tomorrow I'm gonna go in and find out what's happening."
Yeah, but and it's not just about the health. Actually, I think that's what God kind of wants, and that's what faith kind of is
Mhm.
each intentional action that we make to get closer to Him. I mean, that's
Mhm.
just really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Hey, we have a couple of minutes here before we wrap up. Once again, give people, the audience, the website and talk again about the recipes they can find there.
Yeah, so Country Life Natural Foods, the website is countrylifefoods.com. That's countrylifefoods.com. And if you go on the website, actually at the top, in the banner at the top, and also there's another section on the site on the front page, but it says recipes. You can click that and you can look at all the recipes that we have. I think we have over 150. I don't know the exact number, but I
Hmm.
believe it's over 150 various recipes. And there's also I put a recipe generator on the site as well. So if anyone has any ingredients and they want to
Hmm.
know what's the recipe that they can make with those ingredients, they can just put their ingredients into the recipe generator and it'll spit back out recipe ideas for them. It's pretty phenomenal. I could
Okay.
actually go on the back end and look at some of the conversations that people have, and I'm like, I'm impressed by some of the recipes that
Yeah, yeah.
this thing comes up with. So yeah,
Does it
we've done
hallucinate every once in a while though? And come up with something
so
crazy?
Actually, I'll say this: it's been trained well. Let's just put it like
Okay.
that.
Okay, awesome.
It's
Because
been
at the
trained
beginning
well.
when AI first came out, there were some hallucinations like,
It was
two
bad. Yeah,
tablespoons of salt for like a
it,
two people recipe or something.
yeah. No, it was definitely. It took some training to even get to the point where to give measurements. So,
So we didn't talk about this much as far as based on the name, even though it's been alluded to. How would you describe someone who says they are a medical missionary?
a medical missionary is someone that knows how to do basic medical treatments on someone to help them, and not just basic medical treatments, but they actually will know more so than just basic medical treatments. They'll also know how to help people with lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the main part of a medical missionary's focus is not just to help people to get better, but it's actually to help people to become more righteous. And
Mm-hmm.
so the full job of a medical missionary should be to interact with a sick person, and by the time that they leave, that person should be a healthy saint. So the idea,
Amen. Amen.
it's like a full blown transformation. It's yeah, say like yeah, it's a work that you're going to be working alongside of angels and with Jesus. So it's
Mm-hmm.
you know that the great controversy will be happening right before your eyes when people are making life decisions, life choices. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just doing Bible studies with people and getting people to understand, from moving from believing that their grandma's looking at them from heaven to understanding that what the Bible says about the state of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
Those are big changes, and so there's a lot of cognitive dissonance and this, things that emotions people have to go through, and so the medical missionary really has to really be in sync with and just understand a lot of things about human psychology. And so it is a big, it's a it's not for the faint of heart, but if anyone who wants to be one, like, there's training, there's training institutions, there's books written on it. And I believe that there's Sister White has actually also prophesied that at the end of time, that's going to be the last work available. So
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
at some point, when you say what's a medical missionary, it's going to be like the only people able to work.
Mm-hmm. One thing I like to say to people who ask me, because I had a 50-pound transformation. I was at one point I was
Wow.
30, 35+% body fat. I got down to 12, and so people ask me, what are you training for? Are you training for a show, a bodybuilding show? And I was like, no, I'm training for life. Right? I have
Mm,
3 young kids. I want to be there as healthy and chasing them as long as I can. But the number one reason I work out, I tell people, is because the healthier you are, the clearer of mind you are. And that's what connects us with God. And so it's not just physical, it's also, as you alluded to early, mental health. But beyond the mental, right, just speaking from an earthly perspective, is the spiritual health. And if we have that, the rest will follow. We'll give you the final word. Any last message to our audience about country life or whatever? How is there any way they can follow you on social media? Do you have any social media handles people can follow you on, or just at the website?
yeah, we have we're literally on all the platforms. So Country Life Foods, at
Okay.
Country Life Foods, or Country Life Natural Foods. There's one thing I'll say. So we just rolled out a new subscription, like a membership. So,
Mm-hmm.
like Amazon Prime.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So essentially, we made our own version of Amazon Prime called Country Life Plus, and it's
Mm-hmm.
actually, I would say, the best food subscription that exists on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of typically how we order, or how people order with us, is they will order up to $99 worth of food, and if you pass $99, then the shipping is free.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it works is, the way that our shipping rates work. The heavier the order is, the cheaper it is for us to pay on shipping it, so we can pass that savings on to our customers.
Mm-hmm.
So with this, there will be no order minimums, meaning, like, if you just want to order a toothbrush,
Mm-hmm.
then you can pay $2 for the
Yeah, yeah.
toothbrush, and we'll ship it to you for free.
Okay,
So
yeah.
you
So
get
kind of
free,
like a Prime account.
exactly, you get free shipping on every item. you get free express fulfillment, which is like next day delivery, or not delivery, but next day fulfillment or next day
Mm-hmm.
shipping on every item. You get access to these rewards points, meaning for everything you buy, you actually get 4 points back. So it
Mm-hmm.
builds up and builds up. Eventually, you can just use it on free food or shirts or hats or different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get access to exclusive sales. So there's a ton of benefits of why someone would want to join. We already have 125 members so far. It does cost $99 a year, or if someone wants
Mm-hmm.
to try it out for a month, it's $14.95 a month. But again, if you know you're going to place a few orders a year, it's a really really convenient way to make it as easy as possible to just say, oh, we need to get this, boom,
Mm-hmm.
it's on the way.
All
So
right. Thank you for what you do, because as we mentioned, and it's been pointed out, in the end it's going to be the only way to spread the gospel, as people are going to need ways to find out how to cure their ailments. Then we
mhm.
can slip in that Jesus is the only way to ultimate health. Joey, close us out, and then we'll say goodbye to our guests.
Yeah. So thank you. First of all, thank you for coming on, Isaac. It was a great conversation. I'm sure we'll have to have you back at some time in the future. Maybe we'll get Mitchell to be on.
Yes, we'll definitely get Mitchell. I'll see what
Mm-hmm.
I can do.
But in closing, so what I would definitely say to people to take away from this is the question that I asked before about or the point I made about the church not standing for religious liberty or the health message in quite the way that we should have. You can't live in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Mistakes are made. Like you can learn from them. You can learn from them, but there's no you can't completely keep rehashing, and beating yourself up about the past. But I think what Country Life is a really good example of something that I would say Adventists and Christians can follow for the future. Right? Let people know like you're outfitting a healthy life in some ways. You're making it possible. And then I would say to our local churches, right? Like maybe you get this membership to Country Life and you stock some Country Life foods in your church, right? So that your community can you can have something to share with your community or whatever. You have rather than relying on Adventist hospitals or Christian hospitals to do missionary work. They do an important work too, but maybe you start in your local community a small sanitarium, right, where you just do natural treatments or whatever. Like we just got to be intentional. Like Dr. Vine was saying about having local churches make a public stand for religious liberty and liberty of conscience when maybe the bigger church entities won't. We can do the same thing on a local level for health, for healthy living, for natural remedies. So I would just say find something practical to do and do that.
All right. Once again, Isaac, thank you very much. And I know I said I was going to give Joey the last word, but give the website one last time for people.
Yeah, that's countrylifefoods.com.
All right. Thank you very much. Stay on as it goes black out, but to the audience, have a good night.